how successful was the brothel business, your mother's business?
Don't think it was very successful. From what
Mm,
I hear, um, they didn't have, the most happening girls, because I was particularly told, I was told that, or rather, I actually, from the conversation, from the way they talk, I got the impression that number 19 had, a lot of girls. Number 8 that we can see, because what my mom and I do is that, every evening when we could, at about 6 or 7, we will go downstairs and sit at the Chinese temple, what we call tao leung, which means, well, sort of, chilling and watching the world go by, and we would sit there, just to spend time together. Because we really don't get to spend much time together. As a child, I would always call mommy, Casey lot lao ha, when are we going downstairs and can we, just sit there. And whenever we sit there, our view is of number 8 Keong Saik Road. You asked about the even number, so that's on the other side of the road. And that's where I always see it's always full of activity. Number 8, a lot of young, ladies. Um, what I always remember, a very pretty Zeze, that was, probably one of the most famous or most popular girls there. My mom's was really a bit more. People know her, knew my grandmother and knew her. It wasn't one of the prettier, more stylish ones as well. So I didn't get the impression it was very um successful, but
mm,
I think it was nevertheless a place that generated income.
mm. Was the success, due to the girls as you were talking about, or was it due also to the operator, the skills
I
of
think
the
a lot
operator?
to the
Mm,
operator, so that the man would always go to that particular brothel, and then there'll be more business, right? The girls will also be sort of booked and reserved from those brothels.
Tell us about, how your mother was able to do her business and keep it from you. Did you ever suspect?
I don't think my mother was
Mm, no.
deliberately keeping it from me, but she just didn't talk about it, right?
Mm,
And there was this assumption that just kids just don't know and they don't need to know.
mm,
Um, and I think when I was young, I mean, she just was like, "I'm busy, I'm at work," and she doesn't describe what the work is. I didn't quite ask. For me, work. I mean, I think I was more concerned about play myself, so I didn't really care what work
mm,
was. But I just knew that it kept my mom away. And the work, from whatever I could observe as a child, was the work involved a lot of pretty girls. Sort of. I see them sometimes. They might walk into the kitchen. I see a lot of them on the streets walking around. But to me, as a child, without knowing that well, about sex, about brothels, I just see a lot of pretty girls walking up and down, and then yeah, I see men walk in and out of houses, but it was not like it was such a flow of men that that got me curious. Or maybe I was too young to really notice. It was just people walking in the streets.
mm,
When Yeah, so my mom never really talked about it. I never asked, but as I grew older, when I actually saw things around me, and then started sort of asking one or two questions like, uh, uh, why are the houses different? Why are there boxes and all, light boxes and all? I didn't really get a lot of answers, but it's like, yeah, we're all just working. And then the fact that I can't go to the houses when I got older, on the eve of my going to primary school, so about 7, that was the first time my mom actually addressed it and said, when you go to school tomorrow, if people do ask where you live, uh, just say Chinatown. Don't say the street. I mean, by then I already know the name of the street I was living on. I said, don't say Keong Saik Street.
mm,
And then I went, why? And she's like, yeah, this is the larger area, it's Chinatown. And there's nothing, good about talking about this area, so just don't. If they ask you what your parents did, your father's a businessman, true, and your mom is a housewife. She just stays at home. And I'm like, okay, that's quite typical. To when people ask you, back then when you filled in anything, right? The occupation of your father
Okay.
and mother actually is quite common to housewife, for mother. Yeah, and so that was that. So it was the case of I don't think she hid it from me. She just didn't talk about it, and we've never really had a conversation about it. It was like it was an assumption that I'll find out somehow, and I of course I did eventually. And actually, my mom has never sat me down and told me about the business or told me about what's going on there. As I got older, maybe by the time I was a teenager, I started seeing men standing downstairs, just right outside the door, our entrance to 15 and 17. And the reason why they stand there is because it is actually quite a strategic location in the Keong Saik area. That
Mm.
space, if you stand there, you can actually see the girls when they're walking around. And that's when I realized, wow, there are men watching these girls. And then honestly, I don't even remember how I found out that it was a brothel and there were more things, because it was just adults starting to, or rather, the conversations become a lot clearer. When I hear adults talk, suddenly everything clicked, and I then knew that, well, it's a man and a woman, and by then I also knew about the bees and the birds and everything, right? And that was when I realized that, oh, okay, this is a red light district, and my mom is actually running that. No wonder she was busy all the time. So it was almost like, a backward kind of thing in retrospect, that I saw all of that as I was a teenager.